Hi guys, King Wizard here again today with another Yu-Gi-Oh discussion video. A lot on my mind today, I guess. This one's going to be Banlist Banter for the upcoming July 2015 ban list. Now, there isn't a set date for this. I believe Kevin Tewart recently said, to expect it soon, but that was, I believe, Saturday. So I don't imagine. I think it's either going to be released either before Worlds or after it, and it's not going to take effect. And I don't think it's ever going to take effect until after Worlds, for sure. But regardless, I just kind of wanted to talk about uh, what people want to get hit, what people think should get hit, what I think should happen, and all of the sort. So, at the moment, um, I want to talk about, or I want to bring up the main 5 decks, in my opinion, at the moment. Of course, everybody, for the most part, a majority of people are playing Necros. And then, second to that is Burning Abyss. These, in my opinion, are pretty much the top 2 decks. These decks outbeat everything else consistently. Now, I think Burning Abyss, in my opinion, is better than Necros. It's just that more people play Necros, so they're more prevalent. But I definitely think, if piloted correctly, Burning Abyss are better. But the other decks to consider are Satellar Knights, Shadalls, Cleafort, and Ritual Beasts / Spirit Beasts are becoming a thing. They're not popular. I've heard a lot of people say that they're really bad. I've heard a lot of people say that they're really good. But I haven't heard anybody say that they should be banned. And I agree with that. I don't think they should be banned. I'm just putting them in kind of in the same boat as the other 4 decks, as one of the top decks. Now, when people talk about ban list possibilities, a lot of people are either, in my opinion, I've seen that they're extremely harsh to where they're just like straight out hit all of these decks, make them unplayable, or they're like semi-limiting something that people already only run at 2. Like, imagine if they semi-limited Trish. Nobody runs 3 of it. What's the point? You know? Stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to talk about what I think should happen and some of the consequences of if they really did hit a lot of these decks. To the people that think that all 4 of these decks should be hit to the point where they're unplayable, I think that's really stupid. Mainly because if that happens, then that's gonna imagine if Duelist Alliance never happened. That's kind of the way I see it. And I think if all of these decks right here were hit to the point where they're unplayable, then Ritual Beasts, Heroes would get a boost to, viability and competitivity. And then I think, honestly, we would see a resurgence of more almost like hat decks, just maybe not without the artifact engine, maybe with it. I don't know, but I definitely think we're going to see a resurgence of hat potentially. I think mermails have, since they're getting more support, I think eventually mermails are going to be up there, and same thing with Yugiohs. And personally, I think those decks, especially like mermails and Yugiohs, are really old decks. Like, a lot of people don't really consider, or the people that think that the top 4 decks at the moment should be hit, they don't consider the fact that Konami isn't releasing anything major that's gonna, they're not dropping a Duelist Alliance type set anytime soon. So, they can't really hit everything and profit off of it. People got to remember that Konami is a business. Whenever they make a ban list, It's usually to go hand in hand with a set that they're releasing or something of the sort. Basically, either to help profit in a certain aspect of the game, or every now and then, emergency banning something. But you know, they're not releasing anything big. They're not releasing any major archetype that can really, really compete anytime soon. I don't think we're getting anything big until maybe September, and that's at least 2 or 3 months away. So that's technically an entire format. Um, so I really don't think that all the top 4 decks should be hit. That's definitely something ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. I can understand why people why people would want that, because for the most part, we've had Shadal's, Burning Abyss, and Stellar Knights for almost a year now. It's been almost a year since Duelist Alliance. So I can understand that. Decks get stale after a time. But if they were to hit everything, then the older decks would get a boost. And especially Mermail, since they're getting a little bit more support here soon, I'm pretty sure. So, and Mermails are really old. Mermails are at least, 2 or 3 years old. So I think even with that added support, yeah, it's gonna kick them up to the point where they're gonna be really good, especially if everything else gets hit. They're gonna be really good, but I don't think it's any change to the mechanic of the archetype. So I think for a lot of people, it's gonna be just as stale as the current stuff that everybody's running. It's not that the mechanic isn't new or anything. It's not that. It's just that we've been playing it for a long time. And for a lot of people, that gets kind of stale. Now, obviously, the 2 newer ones being Cleaforts and Necros, a lot of people don't like those because Clees can OTK really fast, and they're pretty much the most consistent Pendulum archetype that we have at the moment. And so people don't like it for that reason. I know when Pendulum Summoning was announced, there was a lot of hate towards it. So I imagine a lot of the people that think that Cleese should get hit are those same people that don't like Pendulum Summoning at all in the first place. And the reason why I feel most people don't like Necros is because it is the most popular deck. It's just that inherent meta hate that a lot of people feel. I personally don't hate Necros. I really do like playing them myself, but I do kind of expect them to be hit, honestly. I really do expect Necros to be hit in some way, so I'm not about to drop a bunch of money in order to play them. Now, I don't know. I can't make a solid prediction, in my opinion. I can't make a solid prediction of what's going to be on the ban list. I really can't. But this is more of addressing the people who try to make predictions. Okay, so to the people that are really only limiting things that people already don't really either, it's not going to affect them. Like I've seen people, I've seen people say semi-limit Trish, and I haven't seen a single Necros deck run 3 Trish. So semi-limiting it isn't going to do anything. I've seen a lot of decks when they only run 1. I think the only deck that I've seen that has done anything, the only Necros deck that I've seen that's done anything recently, was the winner of the 150th ran 2 Trish. Other than that, all the other Necros decks that I've seen do anything run 1 Trish. Now I'm not saying 2 Trish is bad. I'm just saying a majority of people will run 1 Trish. Or at least a majority of the winners that run Necros. I'm not saying that's why they won. Again, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm just stating facts here. Now, personally, out of the top decks, out of the top 4, I'm not counting Ritual Beasts, although normally I do throw them in the same boat as the others. But I don't think Ritual Beasts are going to be hit at all. So, for the purposes of this discussion, I'm not going to be throwing them in the same boat. So, out of these 4, I personally really like Shadal's. I like the way that they play, but I do happen to feel I feel that they're also not the best. I feel like if anything, they're probably the worst. And I don't know how. Maybe Stellar Knights are a little less inconsistent because Stellar Knights run a lot of back row, so it is possible to brick, I guess, technically more often with Stellar Knights, but um, I just think I really like the way Shadalls play, honestly. I think they're a little bit more skillful than, definitely more skillful than Stellar Knights. I hate Stellar Knights with a passion. I don't really expect them to be hit, though, sadly. I'm trying to refrain from any bias in this video. Um, I really don't think Stellar Knights are going to be hit that hard because they're not really doing anything in terms of events. They're not topping anything major. I think at one of the most recent events, the North American World Championship qualifier, in the top 64, I think there was only one Stellar Knight player, maybe two. I think there was two Stellar Knight players and one Shadal player, which is really unfortunate, in my opinion. That there's only one Shadal, because before Duelist Alliance, Shadals were the hype. That was the whole thing about that. That was the big archetype coming out of Duelist Alliance. Pre-Duelist Alliance, everybody was hyping up, Midrash, and I can't remember Construct's name in the OCG off the top of my head at the moment, but Shadals were the thing that were being pre-hyped the most, and they come out and everybody's pretty much running Shadals after Duelist Alliance, but then there's a decent amount of people testing out Burning Abyss and Stellar Knights, and they both happen to be really good, especially Burning Abyss. And as time's gone on, I feel like they've supported Burning Abyss, or the support that Burning Abyss has gotten has been better than the support that Shadals have gotten. I just definitely I feel Burning Abyss is just definitely the best deck to come out of Duelist Alliance. But Shadals are probably my favorite in the way that they play. Burning Abyss is probably my favorite in art, but that's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, I really have this massive hate towards Stellar Knights. I really hate the mechanics. In my opinion, they're just as linear, in my opinion, as Evil Swarms. Like how Evil Swarms are pretty much just summon Ophion, set for pass. I feel like Stellar Knights are not linear. That they don't do the same exact thing as Evil Swarms, but their linearity is similar in that they're just a rank 4 spam deck with back row. That's really all they are, and in my opinion, and I'm not saying that they're not good at it. They are really good at what they do, but I just hate them. I hate seeing them. I hate facing them. I don't like playing them. I personally don't like rank 4 spam decks. I don't think they're very original, or creative, or even competitive almost. Like, Stellar Knights aren't doing anything. They're topping. They're not top, like, they're not even so much as like top 32ing or anything like that, as far as I know. I just don't think they're very good. Now, I mean, neither is Shadal in that respect. Shadal isn't making much. They're not topping that much either. They're not doing much, but I think their mechanic, their play style is really original, in my opinion. It's pretty creative. I don't think there's ever been an archetype or even just, style of play as unique, I guess, as Shadal's. The way that they get out their fusion monsters and everything, I think is really cool. I like the idea of it. I like the synergy that it has. Now, it may not be the best, but again, I just like the mechanic. I can't say much about Cleese, honestly, just out of inexperience. So I really don't know about that, but really, out of the next ban list, if I am going to make any sort of prediction, I feel like Necros and Burning Abyss, if anything, are going to be hit. in some way. I'm not going to say what is going to be hit, and I'm not going to say what is going to be limited or semi-limited or banned, potentially. I don't know. I have no clue. All I know is I feel like Necros and Burning Abyss are going to be hit. That's all really I expect. But I just kind of wanted to offer some perspective to the people that think that all of these top 4 decks should be hit to the point where they're unplayable. I think that's ridiculous. I, for one, don't want to see Dark Law topping every single event. I don't want to see a resurgence of Mermails. I really don't. I've never liked Mermails, really. Um, and definitely, I don't hate Mermails. I just don't like them for some reason. But I don't hate them. Definitely not as much as I hate Satellar Knights. I think Hat might come back if these top 4 get hit, and I think Yugiohs might, because I think Yugioh was it's probably the second most efficient rank 4 spam. Now, I know a lot of people think that Manju and Sinju should be hit, because if you hit these, then you're hitting a large portion of Necros, because they're not primary searchers, I guess. I guess you can call them their primary searchers. Manju is definitely the primary searcher, because he can search either ritual spells or ritual monsters. But I don't think either of them should be hit at all. I don't like the idea of, now, I mean, a lot of top decks are going to be archetype decks. There's not many times recently, well, I guess there has been. There's not many decks that are just kind of a mishmash of different things, and that they aren't really their own archetype. It's not a pre-built deck by Konami. It's just a mishmash of things that happen to be really good. The most recent one being last year's Hat deck, and I think the only one before that was probably Dino Rabbit was probably the best before Hat. So, and what I don't like about it is, the meta decks that are archetype specific. A lot of them are going to throw in other support that isn't archetype specific. Like Necros are running Manju and Sinju, Satellar Knights are running Rhoda, Shadal's occasionally, different Shadal builds could run Star Seraphs. Well, then again, different Stellar Knight builds can run Star Seraphs as well, but I'm pretty sure most of them are going back to pure. Burning Abyss ran Tour Guide, which it got limited, which this is kind of going in about what I'm about to say. I don't like it when they hit the non-archetype specific support to the deck instead of actually hitting the deck itself. Now, I understand why they do it. It's to extend the longevity, however the hell you pronounce it, I can't talk, of the deck. Burning Abyss ran Tour Guide, and now that it's limited at 1, it's not really hurting them all that much at all, really. Most of the time, I could even potentially see Burning Abyss players not even running Tour Guide, just on the chance that a majority of people run Mind Crush. And when you search that one Tour Guide with Scarm, they're going to call that, because why would they not? So I don't like them doing that, really, at all. I understand it from a business perspective, but I just don't think it's healthy for the game, because any other deck that could run that could be competitive, or is trying to be competitive, is going to be hurt by that. And it's not like, if Manju and Sinju were hit in some way, I imagine, if anything, Manju would be at 1, and if anything, Sinju would be at 2. That still wouldn't hurt Necros. They could still work. They do not depend on them to function. So they would still work, but at the same time, that would be hurting any other possible deck that could use them. They would cripple them, because ritual decks aren't consistent. They aren't good, and Necros are the first ones that actually are, and yeah, they are really fucking good, but they do not depend on Manju and Sinju. Just like how Burning Abyss did not depend on Tour Guide in order to win, as you saw at Nats in Nashville. Burning Abyss topped the event with one Tour Guide. They did not depend on Tour Guide in order to win. but yet any deck that ran Tour Guide at 3 or 2 is screwed now, because, or that did depend on Tour Guide, at multiple copies of Tour Guide, is screwed now, because, just because Burning Abyss ran it. And Tour Guide being limited doesn't even hurt them. Another potential scenario is if to try to hit Satellar Knights, if they limited Rhoda to 1, again, if Rhoda was back at 1, that would hurt any other warrior deck, any deck that ran warriors, anything. That would hurt them. Satellar Knights don't need it though. They don't need 3. It increases the consistency and it makes them really good, but they don't depend on it. You know, they could get away with 1 copy of it. It's still not gonna hurt them. And that type of logic really bugs me about that. It really bugs me that they do that, and they do it a lot. Konami does do it a lot. You know, after the baby rulers were hit, they also hit Super Rejuvenation. Any deck that, you know, wasn't Dragon Rulers that wanted to try to use Super Rejuvenation to increase its consistency is completely gone now. And I don't think Super Rejuvenation is ever going to come back, honestly. I think Dragon Rulers really buried them. Really buried Super Rejuvenation. So I really don't like that. I feel like if they're going to try to hit a deck, hit the archetype. Don't hit the non-archetype support. That type of stuff really bugs me. Now, on to what I think they should pre-hit before it gets here. And what I mean by that is stuff in the OCG that is really good and is coming out in the TCG, I feel should be pre-hit before it comes to the TCG. Similar to how when we got Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit, it was at 1 when we got it, because of how good 3 was in the OCG. Now, I know some of the most popular decks in the OCG right now, not counting Heroes, because recently, I think at the Nats recently in the OCG, Heroes were like all in the top 8. Like, I think all the top 8 decks were at least running Stratos. But one of the more popular decks recently has been Chicken Race OTK, or any deck involving Chicken Race. You know, there's been multiple different variants. I think there's been at least 3 or 4 different OTK variants that I've seen. And they're, for the most part, they're running Royal Magical Library, Life Equalizer, and Chicken Race. What I think should happen is I think Royal Magical Library should be banned, and Life Equalizer to 1, potentially. Maybe ban both. Royal Magical Library, I definitely think should be banned, because it's not a card that anybody ran ever. Like, this card has caused more trouble than anything. Like, you know, there's not a deck that really needed this to function that wasn't a degenerate deck. You know, Exodia decks run this. I know that because for one, I've built Exodia decks before. I've never ran them in real life. I only use them against bots just for fun. And the majority of the time when I do it, I try to build turn 1 Exodia decks, because I like to do that. And if I can't get it turn 1, I'll quit and then reduel the AI. So I know how reliant those builds are on Royal Magical Library. A lot of times, if I don't open it, I can't get a turn 1 Exodia. So, Royal Magical Library, on top of it being applicable in Exodia decks, it is also one of the main cards used in these Chicken Race OTKs. And this is a card that, like, I know this kind of contradicts what I had just said about hit the archetype and not the non-archetype support, but this card isn't even used in any other decks. Maybe it's used in, like, casual spell counter decks, but I don't think if it is being ran in that, I don't think it should be, just because I don't see its use. You know, outside of, I think just running Upstart alone is better than running Royal Magical Library, because it doesn't take up normal summon and it counts as a spell counter. just playing that Upstart does. And with deck thinning like Blue Boy and Secrets and Spellbook of the Master, I feel like that is a lot better of a deck thinning, consistency, speeding engine than running Royal Magical Library and any sort of spell counter build. I think the only deck recently to even run Royal Magical Library was Spellbooks. Maybe Sided. I don't know. I really don't know. That's just the only deck that I can think of that ran it recently, or that would have. Other than that, this card has always been in extremely degenerate decks. It was part of the Butterfly Dagger Elma loop with Gearfried and Exodia. It pretty much caused that. And it's just such a degenerate card, and that's caused a lot more harm than it has good. And I definitely think that, if anything, that's the card that should be hit next ban list. Now I know Life Equalizer, I think should be hit too, just because that's what does the OTK. That's what's doing it. And I think Chicken Race should be pre-hit to 1. Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that. But because it can be used in other scenarios outside of OTKs, I do think it could be a potentially viable field spell. Just because it doesn't really act like a field spell, It just acts like a spell card that both people can use. Or just a general, almost like an upstart. But instead of giving your opponent 1,000, you're taking 1,000 from yourself. So, it's still kind of that same negative that Upstart has. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about Chicken Race, but I definitely think Life Equalizer, or maybe ban it, maybe limit it to 1. I don't know, because if it just gets limited to 1, Chicken Race OTK decks are all about draw power and burning. That last, drawing and then life equalizing and then burn. But I definitely think Royal Magical Library should be hit. It's the main source of degenerate decks, like Exodia and everything. So yeah, that's my Banlist banter video. This is my opinion about the ban list of what could happen, what might happen, and what definitely should happen. Royal Magical Library, that card. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you later.